And our third question, share with our audience about your book, The Compliance Handbook, A Guide to Operationalizing Your Compliance Program. I understand it's now in the fifth edition. And how does that help businesses?
Well, I'm going to be had to have the temerity to have a copy right here and show you. But yes, this is my signature work. It is in my humble opinion, the best one author volume on doing compliance or operationalizing compliance. David, as you mentioned, some of the companies I work for, I came out of the corporate world when I was exposed to compliance when I was still in the legal department. And it struck me that compliance, properly seen as a business process. Yes, it's in a response to legal and regulatory requirements, but it's really a process. And if it's a business process, you can study it, you can measure it, you can manage it, you can monitor it, you can improve it, because it's just like any other process. So I'm really tried to, for the last 15 years, talk about compliance as a business process, try to explain to companies this is not something to be afraid of, because more effective compliance equates to more efficient business processes, and at the end of the day leads to higher ROI and profitability. So that if I believe, as properly seen as a business process, if you implement an appropriate business process to manage a risk, you're going to be a better run company.
And part of that situation is are not international companies required to have a compliance program to fit the requirements of the FCPA? And isn't there bonuses or at least some rewards for companies that have tested and established their compliance programs?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, David, because initially compliance programs were put in to comply with that law, the FCPA. The Department of Justice over the past 15 years has given a plethora of guidance on what their view of a best practices compliance program. But David, the more interesting approach is what I saw in the city of Houston, specifically in the energy industry. In the first decade of this year, there was an industry sweep in energy for FCPA violations. Houston, Texas is the FCPA capital of the world because of energy and energy companies in Houston. But what was interesting, David, was the business response. The operating companies, the Exxons, the Chevrons of the world, they had gold standard programs. Well, immediately below that are the service companies, Baker Hughes, Weatherford, Halliburton, et cetera. And if you wanted to do work, you had to do work with one of those service companies, literally down to the $15 million software company that had one piece of software that bolted on something downhole and did something. And I represented a company like that. And I told them, if you want investment dollars, if you want a contract with a Baker Hughes, with a Halliburton, with a Weatherford, you're going to have a compliance program. And I finally talked them into letting me put a compliance program in. 2 weeks later, one of those companies came for a big investment. And the second thing they asked for was, we want to see your compliance program. It's a long-winded way of saying that compliance in energy is driven as a business initiative. And it's not so much that you have to have a program to get benefits from the government if you get in trouble. But if you want to do business in the energy industry or tech or financial services or pharma, or you name the industry, you have to have a compliance program. And so that's the part I try to focus on, David, is to try to indicate to people that it's a business response to a legal problem, but it's a business process. So let's put that process in place. Let's make it transparent. If somebody comes knocking and wants to review your program, you can show that to them. You're not going to show them trade secrets, but you can certainly show them the 8 or 10 elements of your compliance program. So Houston is the best example of a business response to the legal issue of international anti-corruption.